Hello everybody, it's Gert Marx from SSW TV, and today I'm joined by Chris Simon. Chris, how are you going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Gert. Thanks for
Have you been enjoying NDC, being back in Melbourne?
always enjoy NDC. It's such a great conference. They really know what they're doing. And yeah, great to be back in Melbourne. I'm based in Sydney, so yeah, I do pop down here quite a bit, but
Yeah.
always enjoy my visits.
Oh, awesome. So at the last NDC Melbourne, we actually had a chat about Contextive.
Actually, that was NDC Sydney.
Oh, was that NDC
Yeah,
Sydney, was
been
it?
doing
Oh
so
my
many
God, so too
NDCs.
many NDCs, yeah. And how's that going? Have you?
Yeah, really well. That was the tool that is all about documenting your domain language.
Yeah.
And supporting you by doing like hover tooltips and stuff in your IDE to sort of encourage developers to use the terminology of their business domains in their code and to just understand their business domains.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been going really well. I mean, it's a hobby project on the side, so periods of time that's a bit slower and then bursts of activity some time. But I actually got some really exciting updates that are just hot off the press that I'm keen to show you today.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, we're gonna have a look at in the IDE a change I've made where you can sort of get the definitions closer to the code that it's relevant to. And then the other thing, which is a really exciting thing, so I'm setting up a cloud service that will synchronize the definitions between like a Notion. So you can actually have other people in your business checking out the definitions and the terminology and even updating them there. And they'll webhook their way over to the cloud service.
Well, that's cool because it's the business who will actually know the real domain, right? And be able to give you those definitions and all that.
It was always the dream of this. I mean, when I started, I did it just in the IDE because it was easy to get going. And I think there's some advantage to having your definitions in like a YAML file in your repository. You get the benefit of version control. And if you change them, like it's apparent to people in pull requests and things like that.
Yeah.
But, I was talking to a whole bunch of other people that are really into domain-driven design, like Alberto Brandolini and people like that. And they were, really aligned with what I was thinking, which is that it's not enough to just be in the dev world. Like that's the whole problem, is that the developers are too isolated and often disconnected from what's happening, in the broader business. So something that links it up and makes it so that other people can see the same terminology, can drive it, in fact, and even like own the definitions, and developers will see them in their IDE. That's the dream, and I've actually got.
Let's go, and it's basically bridging that gap again between the developers and the business, and that's essentially where we want to get to.
Exactly.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
What are you going to show us today?
Well, first I thought we'd just start in the IDE, and I'll show you, just for anyone who isn't familiar with it, like the basics of how it works and that change I mentioned. So last time I think we talked about the domain of like dental operations.
That was right. Yeah, I just came up with that, and it was like, wow, throw me in the deep side.
It really seemed like you're quite an expert on that.
Not really. No, it just popped into my head. But I guess we can go with something. Well, let's do the same. Let's see, because we did it last time. Let's just do it again.
Yeah, cool. Well, you're the expert. You're gonna have to remind me.
All right.
What are the key, like what's a
well, I guess
a subdomain, or what's an area within the
well, we have implants, right? So let's go with implants.
So that's like implants is a whole subdomain, like a bounded context. Sorry, implants. Is that how you spell it?
Yeah.
So what we do now, that version I showed you before, we had like a central file that sat out in like a .contextive folder.
Yeah.
And, that seemed like a cool thing to do, but then I realized like that's actually hiding the file away because it's a .folder. So change it now. So you actually put like a glossary file out in the folder that it applies to. So we'll create a folder implants.glossary.yaml, and then give it a context name. Oh, that's quite handy. Oh, is that Copilot?
That is, wow. So it's actually going in there. And
so because the schema is actually registered now with a YAML schema registry.
I see.
And so it's popped up and it's actually generated a bunch of definitions for us all straight away. So this is quite interesting because I did want to talk to you about this. And a lot of people have been asking me like, is there an opportunity to leverage LLMs and AI in this space? And I think there probably is, but I do recommend caution, like a little bit of, sanity checking of it, because the risk of relying on your LLM to give you the definition is that as a non-expert, you're going to look at it and go, looks good to me.
Yeah, that's right.
But is it right? Is it right in your situation, in your context?
Yeah.
And so it's actually really important that these things are collaborated on with the business and domain experts. And, someone who is intimately familiar with it will look at those definitions and go, as I've heard a few people say about LLM generated text, yeah, but no. Like it's close, but
it's close, but it's not the way that we see it.
Yeah, and it's just these subtle little things that are missing. And so that's why there's I think this irreplaceability of human expertise, because LLM's only ever going to have what they've been trained on, which means it's going to be hard to innovate with it because you're only going to be able to access, what's out there or some, combinations of what's out there. But I still believe that, real innovation is still going to come from people
Yeah.
solving problems to support people that need their problems solved.
Yeah,
And
and that innovation is the key word, isn't it? Because the LLMs are trained on existing data and existing ideas and what's out there. Innovation is actually coming up with new ways to do things, and it's not going to do that for us. It's rather going to go at what it knows and just follow that course forward. What I did do though myself is I used your Contextive file the other way around. So I was actually using Cursor, and to give it context, I was using Contextive and say, keep an eye on this file. If you want your definitions, if you want to know what I'm talking about when I'm asking you, the agent, to write code for me, first reference this file to get context of what we are building before you spit out an output. So
I think that sounds very
and
helpful.
that worked pretty well for me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I think it is a very interesting and evolving space. I'm actually also, on record having done a few talks with some AI skepticism in my content as well, and mostly not so much about what we're talking about here, which is I believe it can be useful and really useful if it's managed in the right way. But there are some other ethical considerations that I think people sometimes gloss over. For example, you talked about the data that it's trained on. There's a lot of evidence that most of that was stolen data, copyright data that's being used in violation of the copyright rules. A lot of the LLMs also relied on basically using data workers to validate and to do sort of human reinforcement learning. And a lot of those data workers were treated really poorly. So there's actually like a supply chain issue there in terms of like the ethics of how we treat the workers involved in that practice. I mean, a lot of people also spoken about the energy consumption.
Yeah, but I think that is a big issue, right?
Yeah.
And the more we use it and the bigger it gets, the more energy it's consuming, right? And we need to sort of come up with a plan on how that will be handled and how that affects the environment before we go too big. Just for the sake of building these models.
Exactly. Yeah. And then on the other side, you've got, like we just talked about, you need to be making sure that anything that you get generated is being checked with people who actually know. And particularly if you're using it to generate like domain terminology definitions, because not only you have those risks of, what they call hallucinations, or actually I prefer the term bullshit from the, well, there's actually a philosophical paper on this topic where there's a guy called Harry Frankfurter who wrote a book called On Bullshit. He was talking about politicians. Because he was talking about the difference between people that lie, know that what they're saying is not true and they say it anyway. People that hallucinate believe it to be true, but it's not. But LLMs don't believe anything. They don't hold a self-belief. They don't know whether it's true or not. They're just emitting text based on probabilistic connections to other texts. So that's why it's appropriately and philosophically so to call it bullshit, because there's no self-belief on the LLM's part around what it's getting.
About what it's doing.
But the other thing that's a really subtle side effect of that is bias. So especially if you're working in a domain that relates to people, there's a strong risk that these definitions are going to bias particular people, either for or against. It's something a lot of people are working really hard to combat, but at the moment, there's still not really a solution for that. So I think the end result of all of that is the importance of the human in the loop, checking it, making sure that the experts are keeping an eye on it, and not just like blindly going ahead and say, hey, it saved me a bunch of time. It's like, well, that time is going to go missing later when you have to fix this stuff.
Exactly. And the snowball effect it might have when you start developing. Well, we've got at SSW, we've got our SSW rules, and one of our rules that we have is check by, and we do that in the company. Like when you send an email to a client, you always get it checked by a second pair of eyes. When you send a client an email, you actually ask them to check that email so they understand the context of the email. You make sure you get the right message across. And again, that also bridges the gap between the business and the developer, and forces them to communicate. And I think this is, again, one of those examples. If it does spit out that for you, then this gives them the opportunity to actually phone up someone in the business and say, hey, can you just throw your eyes over this for me? And then start that conversation about what all those definitions mean. Right?
So let's get back into this and show you how it actually works. So if we save this file now, we've actually got an error with the auto-generated one after we talked a little about property description. It's not description, it's domain vision statement, and these things should be called definition. So there's an interesting little LLM
there you go.
work. So maybe it wasn't picking up the schema registry, but if that's worked now, we should be able to hover over this, and this is Contextive in action. So hovering over that term, it gives you the context, the implant's context, and it gives you the definition. Process where your dental implant anchors to the jawbone, which sounds pretty cool. So if you're working on some code, for example, so let's say we're doing an implant .cs and going public class implant you're going to get that same support up here with that terminology of definition.
Oh, well, yeah.
And so it works in C#, in Java, in TypeScript, whatever. So you get the same definitions in the front end and the back end, which I think is also super helpful, because you often find teams, especially when you've got split teams between front end and back end, just ending up with slightly different terminology, which always gets confusing at the integration point.
Yes, it does.
So I'm hopeful that this will be helpful for that. And because it's not actually looking at the code, it's just looking for the words. And that's why it's able to do that. And then the other quick key feature then is like if there's another context involved. So I think one that we looked at last time was maybe like the logistics of, or was it surgery? So maybe
I think it was surgery.
Surgery. So we can set up another glossary file. Let's call that surgery.glossary.yaml. We go context. No, it's thinking name implants. Surgery. Let's take that. So we got surgery, incision, and anesthesia. And now we'll get that definition there. One of the things that's quite interesting though is if we go name implants and give it a definition here is slightly different. The definition we get in this place is where's that not? Do now save it. There we go. It's a device or tissue. Did we get the same definition over here? It is. So what I wanted to show off though is if we change the definition in this context. So say the definition in this context is, because in this context, bounded context is a thing from domain-driven design, which allows you to write code in a context that's specific to that purpose. Yeah. So maybe in the context.
So now we're in surgery. Yes, it's more just the object being implanted as well.
The object, that is about to be implanted during a particular, a surgical procedure.
Yeah.
So now in this context, we're going to get this definition. An object is about to be implanted during a surgical procedure. We'll go back into this one. We'll get the other definition, the device or tissue that's inserted into the body. Yeah. And so this idea of the definitions being context aware is a really important part of the tool. And that's why it's called Contextive.
Yeah.
And I think actually it's one of the best insights from domain-driven design is that you don't have to have one universal model. One sort of central domain model. That's what everyone's been trying to do, and it's been causing no end of trouble. Yeah. Everyone trying to shove everything into the one central domain model or a canonical data model. Rather, give yourself dedicated context-aware and context-specific models, and this tool supports you by having those subtle definition changes as you move from context to context, even if you're using the same.
Yes. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So this is the base level of the tool. This is basically what's available for free as part of the open source tool.
Yeah.
So I'm calling it Contextive Community. There's going to be a bunch more stuff in that space as well. The main thing with it is that you're going to be managing your definitions in these glossary YAML files. And if you want the definitions to be available to other people, you're going to have to put some work into that, like write a script, publish it somewhere to your self-hosted location. But I'm actually launching at the moment also a service called Contextive Cloud. And that's actually going to do integrations with Notion I was talking about before. So let me jump over here. This is like super hot off the press. This is like early beta, private beta preview.
Awesome.
So don't judge some of the design work in here.
We feel special.
But what this is set up for is actually integrated over to Contextive. So when you link Contextive into Notion, you get this page to help you manage your glossary in Notion. Gives you a bit of different, support around what's going on, and it uses a Notion database here. So there's like a terms database. So we can set up a definition in here. Let's call it an implant, and that's going to be in the implants context. Let's create a new implants context, and then we can give that a domain vision statement as well. Working with others. We don't get the Copilot support here, so that's write my own definition. A device that is implanted into the body. Now, the thing with Notion integration, we're using the webhooks, so it does take about a minute to synchronize over. But what will happen is once that's synced over, we'll be able to see that definition over in Contextive, and we'll get a glossary file that includes an import statement. And we pull that into the repository.
Yeah.
And so that repository, that file in the repository will tell the IDE tool, this is where you can go get the definitions from. From this URL.
Okay.
And then that's how we tie it all together. And so then you can have, because these things are like standard Notion database entries, you can reference them and link to them all over your wiki.
Okay,
you can get hover support right in Notion there. You can do all sorts of stuff in Notion with these definitions, like filters and queries and custom views. But then the data synchronizes over to the Contextive IDE. We'll see if it's synchronized yet. There we go. Yeah. So now we've got the implant device. We don't have much information about the context yet. I should have updated that. Working with implants. Oh, that is there. They might get there eventually. So we've synchronized the term and the context. But what's given me here is this file. It's just saying this is the context import file. Copy that and paste it into your IDE. So if we do have like another context here, let's go down here, implants online, and then paste that in.
At one point I was like, just get forward.
And then set up a new implant.cs.
So you literally just copy and paste the text.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually set it up so you can download download the file straight away.
Yeah.
But what we should get here is this is the definition. A device that is implanted into the body. That's the one I literally just typed into Notion.
Yeah, yeah.
So now you're getting that definition as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
and so
good.
it does, like I said, takes about a minute to synchronize across.
Yeah.
But you know, the point here is now you've got domain experts can go and work in Notion, keep it up to date there. Within a minute, it synchronizes over to the cloud, and then the developers are seeing that definition right in the IDE while they're working. So I'm really excited for this. It's available now. It's going to be available soon, I should say. If you go to contextive.tech, got a bit of information about it up here, including a sign-up form for the public beta, which is hopefully launching in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, if anyone checks this out, wants to get along to this, I'd love to have some people trying this out. And you can see here, got a bigger plans for this. So at the moment, we're launching with Notion, synchronizing to the IDE, but we'll have Slackbot as well. So you get those support definitions appearing in Slack, more dev environments, more wikis like Confluence and SharePoint. And even a browser extension I plan to be working on soon, so that you can, like, even if you're on other pages or like you're writing an email, you can get those definitions right.
That would be goals also. Yeah. So you keep it synced across all those different communication channels. That's really impressive.
Yeah, nice. I'm excited to get this going.
To get to play with it, to be honest.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll sign you up for the waitlist.
Yeah, I'll definitely sign it up. Well, might do. That's my computer. Check me sign me up in anyway. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for showing us today. Let's get Marx for SSW. We'll see you next time. Cheers.